Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan, aka Simply Simmer, and today's episode is inspired by one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time, Christmas Vacation. So this is actually a movie that I didn't really see until I was an adult, but my husband used to watch this every single year, multiple times a day during the Christmas season, so it's definitely become a staple in our house since we've been together. A fun little fact about this build is that last year about this time, I think I had only made like 2 or 3 videos at that point, but I tried making this video as like my 3rd or 4th build, and I got so stressed out because I wasn't the greatest builder back then, but I definitely wanted to give it a go since it was the Christmas season and I just couldn't really figure out the sunken floors or the window placement. So the platform update that we got this year definitely came in handy a lot, and also in the last year at some point there was the update where you could place windows kind of wherever you want on a wall, so that definitely helped as well in creating this build much better this year than my attempt that never really went anywhere last year. By the way, since this video is a little longer than most of my other videos, I am going to place some timestamps on the side so you can jump ahead to your favorite parts of the build. I do have a full walkthrough at the very end as well, so you can see the build in its entirety there. So I originally had plans to do weekly Christmas builds this year, but I did have a pretty intense surgery at the beginning of December, which I'll probably go into more at a later time, but just not quite yet. Everything's good and I'm all healthy, and it's actually going to be something that's way better for me down the road in the future, but there is more information on that to come at a later time. I do have some projects that I'm working on that are revolving around that, so that's kind of why I've been missing for a few weeks now, and I haven't really gotten much content out. But I did use that time for brainstorming future video ideas and just really refresh my creativity skills. But I'm excited to be back and getting more videos out. I love recreating builds from TV shows and movies just because it's really fun to kind of immerse yourself in the set, and it really starts to feel like you're actually there. So jumping into the build itself, the first section is the entryway. I really wish that there was a way to do a rounded staircase like they have in the movie, but I had to work with what we have, so I ended up using this L-shaped staircase instead. I also feel like the wallpapers that are used throughout this entire build are so rarely used, at least for myself, and I think I've mentioned a few times how I love finding builds that give me a chance to use as many items that I don't often use as possible. So this entryway is built up on a platform and the rest of the house is sunken down. They do mention that there's a basement, so I believe that the door here is actually leading to the basement, but I'm not entirely sure on that. I did have to try a few different things to get the stairs leading down into the sunken areas to work. Originally, I had placed some archways on both sides of the entry, but the stairs wouldn't line up properly if I did them that way, so I ended up deleting the walls and essentially created my own archway so that the stairs would mesh really nicely against the platform. So a major part of the movie is the fact that they have that humongous tree in the living room that barely fits. The trees that come with the free holiday pack and the season's expansion pack are just regular size, so I had to size it up to make it take up the appropriate amount of space for the movie. The top of the tree does cut into the second level, which I'll address later on in the video on what I did to hide that. This is my first successful Christmas build, so I really loved getting to use the holiday type items for once. I've really never used them before, and anytime I'm just playing the actual game, I feel like I just rely on the attic decoration box to decorate for each holiday. So I've really never explored the holiday items, but they were super fun to go through. An item that I wish that we could get in a future pack would be an upright piano. We have the grand pianos that just take up way too much space, and then there's also the organ that's way too dramatic for most of the builds that I make. So a lot of times I'll actually just use the DigiRad keyboard that came with City Living, and then I'll line it up against a console table, and it sort of creates the illusion that it's an upright piano. I think that that would be a great addition down the road. But anyway, to finalize this living room area, I just added a few extra holiday items like some of the artwork, and then I also did things like greenery and some of the debug item cards. So the next section that we're moving into, I actually originally messed up on. This is the family room that the TV is in and where they fall asleep watching the Macy's parade. I watched this movie several times, but I never really realized there's actually a computer desk here as well. I did notice it later on, and I forgot to hit record when I fixed it, so there is a part missing out of the video where I jump back over here to finish furnishing the room, but I'll let you know when that point comes during the video. Everything about this room seems super tight and cozy. It would probably be my favorite room of the house if I actually lived here. It's first shown early in the movie, right when the extended family rings the doorbell and they go through the different rooms of the house. Which, fun fact about the movie itself, during that scene there was an earthquake while they were filming. And if you watch really closely while Clark is in the bathroom, you can see the edges of the mirror shaking. I just thought that that was really neat, and it was cool that they didn't cut it out of the film either. Moving back over to the front of the house, which is where the dining room is. The room itself is kind of an odd shape. There's a slanted wall in the corner that the fireplace is on. I couldn't ever figure out why that wall is on that diagonal or what's behind it, so I just kind of blocked it off with some wall pieces. But of course, we do have some pretty outdated wallpaper in here that I'm sure was a hit when the movie was first originally filmed. So this room was shown a few different times, and the way that I have it set up is how I think the Griswolds would typically have it set up. During the dinner scene with the infamous dry turkey, they do have the table slanted and an extra smaller table at one of the ends so they can fit everybody. I went with the setup that I did just because it's a little more friendly for your Sims to live in. So this part here is what I mentioned earlier about forgetting to hit record when I was adjusting the family room. I added in the computer desk and just kind of cluttered the room up a little bit. I did want to take a quick moment to let you know that if you're interested in downloading this for your Sims, I do have all of my gallery information listed in the description below the video. This is uploaded to the gallery and ready for download, and I never use custom content in my builds. I do use all of the packs that are out though, so you may be missing some items if you choose to download this and you don't own all of them. But the last room of the lower level is the kitchen. There are a few different times that this is shown throughout the movie, so I was able to get a pretty good grasp of what it looked like, although some of the angles did make it a little bit confusing for me. The main thing of this room was making sure to get the smaller dining table in front of the window and then also getting the island in the center of the room. The countertops in the movie actually have like a greenish color to them, but there wasn't really one that matched that in the game. I started out by using these dark brown counters with a dark countertop, but I do end up going back and choosing a lighter shade. These darker shades of cabinets weren't as popular back then as they are now, which is why I decided to go that route instead. I did originally start out by making the island pretty wide, but then I realized it wasn't centered with the window and it was really bothering me, so I did go back and make it thinner and it looked a lot better to me. So aside from changing the colors on the counters, the last thing that I did in this room was I went through and I added some clutter. I think if EA released a clutter stuff pack, I would be in absolute heaven. There just aren't that many options for cluttering, and I feel like I'm always using the same items over and over and over again. So I would love it if we could just get a few more items to take up some of the empty spaces on the counters without having to go through the debug menu. Then, aside from adding those last few items and then cluttering up the dining room just a little bit more, that concludes the first floor of this build. In just a moment though, you will see the start of the exterior decorating, which I definitely go a lot more into detail in the last section of the video before the final walkthrough. I really like to make sure that all of my builds have as much attention to detail in them as I can, but the rooms upstairs aren't really shown much during the movie, so it was kind of hard for me to get super specific. I wanted to include it on the video, but I will say that the upstairs rooms just aren't quite as detailed as the first floor. Clark and Ellen's room really isn't shown. They do have a few scenes in bed, but they don't show anything that's around the bed. The only thing that I know about is that there's a lamp on Clark's side of the bed that he pulls off the table, and then there's one scene where Clark walks from the bedroom to the bathroom, and we're able to see just a tiny bit into the room, which you can see there's a lot of pink, and they have some armchairs in their room as well. And then this pink color does also extend into the bathroom with their pink tiles. Again, this is only shown for a few moments when Clark is in the bathroom, so it's really not very detailed. There was a pretty good shot of Audrey's room, which showed that she had some posters and magazines, and the main shot that I found was when Audrey was sitting on her bed listening to music. So I went ahead and I added all of the different music posters, and then I also added a stereo in her room as well, which you'll see in just a moment. The last room that we're about to move into is Russ's room, which really didn't go quite as well as I wanted it to. There is a hack that I definitely need to improve my work on, but you can essentially make bunk beds using platforms. James Turner has a really good tutorial on it if you search for his platform bunk bed tutorial video. It ended up taking a lot of time and space, and there wasn't that much space to begin with in this room. This is also the room that's right above the living room, so the Christmas tree is cutting through the floor here. I hid it by raising up a platform around it and then just kind of using that as a shelf. That side of the room isn't shown in the movie, and really all that we see of his room is that he has bunk beds, so I just kind of had to roll with it. And the last part of this video is the exterior. I started out by just adding the plants, the trees, and the bushes into the front yard, and I typically try to landscape at the end of the build just in case I need to move things around while I'm working on the interior. In the movie, Clark is constantly daydreaming about the pool that he wants to build in the backyard with his Christmas bonus check. There's also the scene where he fantasizes about Mary being in the pool, and then Ruby Sue walks in on him thinking he's Santa Claus, and that Santa Claus is standing in the middle of the kitchen. The movie ends before they're able to show the real pool in the back, so I just put a small pool back there with some accessories around it. I really wish that we had diving boards in The Sims 4, but since I couldn't use one, I did use the jumping rock that came with Get Together, which I guess is the next best thing. But last but certainly not least, one of the most iconic parts of the movie is the Christmas lights. I wanted to cover the house as much as I could, so I used the twinkling hanging lights that came with the Parenthood pack. Yes, I did have to add those in one by one, and yes, it took forever. I sped this part of the video up by 1000%, but it looks so good once it's all completed. So make sure to stick on through to the final walkthrough, but if you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and drop your favorite Christmas movie in the comment section below, even if there isn't a cool house or anything to go along with it. Christmas is probably my favorite time of the year, and I love watching Christmas movies, so I'm excited to hear what everyone else loves watching. Once again, my name is Megan, aka Simply Simmer, and if you want to see more TV show and movie houses built in The Sims 4, consider subscribing and checking out my channel for more popular videos. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, or enjoy whatever holiday you celebrate, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone!